I've come the longest distance, so I will try to make the shortest presentation. But to give a context for the Inflatable Cookbook, which is a book rather than a magazine, I'll tell a little bit about Ant Farm and try to build on the introduction that Lydia gave me. Ant Farm functioned from 1968 to 1978, and we were founded in San Francisco in 1968 at a time when there was revolution in the air, and there was a sense of an underground culture developing. There was underground film, underground books, underground radio. And so we described what we were underground architects. And a friend gave us the name by saying, like that small plastic toy, the scientific toy. And what's interesting is that the ant farm, above ground, you have a very traditional architectural scene. But below ground, the ants are building amazing biomorphic freeform spaces, and they're working collaboratively. So it was a perfect metaphor, and it also gave us a logo and a name and an official color. So I was a student during the 1960s, and Archigram was, of course, one of the influences on Ant Farm. And I have to say that I don't remember ever reading the publication, but it came usually through republication, I think, in other magazines. And so it was more or less the graphic style that was important and signaled that something was happening. And another influence, I think, was Andy Warhol for the way he crossed boundaries from painting, graphic design, film, performance, music within the art world. And of course, Buckminster Fuller for his efficiency of design sense. And I think for us, perhaps more than some of the other people here today, the Whole Earth Catalog was also a powerful influence. It was founded also in the counterculture of California. And the subtext of the title, the access to tools, was particularly important. But finally, another influence had to be the idea of the rock band during the 1960s for the creative collaboration that was implied. So this is a photo of Ant Farm that was the most album cover-like. In fact, this would be the album cover version taken in 1974. So when we began a practice, an alternative practice of architecture, it was posed as symbolically against the dominant style. And of course, to study architecture in the 1960s, there really was only one dominant dogma, which was modernism, and sometimes, a subgenre of modernism would be brutalism. So we began with experimenting with military surplus parachutes as a way to make a temporary form of architecture, which could only protect you from the sun. But as structures, these were interactive structures. It was actually possible to ride, to have a trip inside a parachute. And they required one anchor point, but they could be then shaped by interaction by participants. And of course were photographically very beautiful as well as symbolic. And from the parachute, which was ephemeral, portable, lightweight, etc., we went one step towards permanence, one small step with the inflatable structure. And here you see two versions of it. In the foreground, a very cheaply made polyethylene, we called it the spare tire form, inside a larger vinyl pillow. And for 2 years in California, we demonstrated and gave workshops on how to make inflatables. But often these would take the form of performative events So this one is on the occasion of the first Earth Day in the US, 1970, and it was fashioned as the clean air pod, a space that you could go into to get away from the dirty air that existed all around. Of course, that was a fiction, but it was an agitprop fiction. This inflatable pillow was also used for a focal point of conferences, such as the Freestone Conference in 1970, which was an alternative, a meeting of alternative architecture individuals and groups in Northern California. We also went on the road in our media van and did demonstrations at a variety of college campuses. This inflatable was titled Ice 9. It was more or less a tent, used as a tent. And then we also rented the inflatable to the Whole Earth catalog for the production of a supplement to the catalog that was produced. Stuart Brand, the editor of the Whole Earth catalog, wanted to produce it in a very remote location in a valley in Southern California. So actually we were thrilled when the Whole Earth catalog also published a listing of the inflatable cookbook. But I did want to show the contents of the Whole Earth catalog, because we can see that many of the categories are related to architecture, from understanding whole systems, shelter and land use, nomadics, industry and craft. So, of course, we were also drawing and designing these inflatable structures, and we even had a radio frequency welder to weld the vinyl and begin fabricating them. But as Lydia mentioned, we weren't interested in becoming manufacturers or designer manufacturers. Rather, the idea was to get the information into the hands of people to make them themselves. So this is the first edition of the inflatable cookbook, published in 1970 or 1971, I'm not sure. And it was, of course, like Archigram, it was hand collated by the team and collectively edited, collectively drawn. And it came in a vinyl binder, a folder, which we also fabricated ourselves. But the pages were loose pages so that they could be spread out. And the idea was that it was a workable model that you could find plans and you could lay them on the floor and you could begin cutting material and building inflatables. Now, behind this, I think, was the idea that, whether it was the philosophy of the Whole Earth catalog or what we were engaged in, there was an idea that we could change the world in some way. And it even went so far as to redesign the currency, money. These are energy credits that were included in the inflatable cookbook. And if somebody showed up at the ant farm door with an energy credit, we would certainly take that as payment for an inflatable cookbook. I wanted to focus on this page, which is a reprint from Architectural Design. I think Cedric Price wrote this or participated in this. It was an issue, probably the issue on inflatables. And this is probably reprinted without permission or copyright use, naturally, which was, again, in the spirit of the times, all the information to all the people. So, as I said, this was an edition of 1,000, $3 each, and somehow they all have been distributed. I think they were all distributed within a couple of years, actually, 1970, 71 to 72, and eventually we did publish a bound version, the second edition. So, the inflatable cookbook, by the way, has just made it into the exhibition, which I'm very happy about. And also this is, as I mentioned, the listing in the Whole Earth catalog showing the price and the description written by Stuart Brand of inflatables. And just as a digression, this is a publication that Radical Software, which was contemporaneous with many of these other small magazines. This one specifically for the alternate television movement, the video movement. And this was a way for Ant Farm to find a network of people working with video at that time. And so we were invited to design, we designed the cover for issue number 4 in 1971. So beyond the Inflatable Cookbook, we did have involvement with other publications and as designers or as participants. And I think it is, you know, it makes me think, seeing this exhibition, that it's endemic of that period of time, that there were many other small magazines in other areas of interest. And then one more note, in 2004, I gave a copy of an Inflatable Cookbook to Roman Coppola, who's a film director. And he shot a TV commercial in it. He gave the Inflatable Cookbook to his technicians, and they constructed this large inflatable inside a hangar in Los Angeles so that they could create a completely white, seamless space to introduce the Toyota Prius. So to me, this is like the final acknowledgement that the information that was published in 1971 could be used productively in 2004 to actually make an inflatable. And then one final footnote, I guess, is that we went on to, we didn't design too many buildings, but this is one that got built. And even though it's made of ferro-cement, I think there's an obvious kind of alignment with the formal qualities of the inflatable that influence the look of the House of the Century. So, that's very quick within my time.